There we go. And welcome back, everybody, for another episode of Dark Bites Horror in Review. As always, I am your host, Rick Hipson, and I am here today with none other than Bailey Hunter-Strohl. I got to remember the hyphen name now because you went off and got a new identity since the last time that we were really in touch about anything, really.
I know.
So thank you so much for being here today, Bailey. I've been really looking forward to chatting with you. Of course, I know you from way back in the day. Feels like we've both been doing this forever.
It's been,
I'm
yeah, it's been a long time. I've been doing this since, well, Dark Recesses since 2005. So,
Yeah, that long ago. Wow. So,
hmm
and I don't know what you're doing or what kind of Kool-Aid you've been drinking, but you clearly age has not touched you. I've got lots more gray hairs, so
Lies that I take. I'll take them.
yeah. So apparently you've been sacrificing the right goats and doing the right chants and all that stuff.
Well,
So
we
it's
don't
obviously
talk
worked out.
about those things on public TV.
Sorry, I will edit that out later. Your secret safe with me and everybody else. So awesome. No, I really appreciate this because I was so excited. I mean, one thing that I've always loved about what you do, you actually, it was funny because you used to be a fellow Canadian, so you were off on the balmy shores of Vancouver uh,
Yes, yes.
when I first met you, and um, I love the passion. Obviously, comes across 100%. So I know one thing that we were just chatting about a little bit before I hit that record button is you love, of course, working with some of the big names. I mean, who doesn't? You know, we've all got our lofty. These are my goals. If I talk to this person, I've made it. I'm on the right track. But they all started somewhere, and that's a big part of what you do too. Is you really
That
try to
is,
celebrate those up and comers.
yeah, absolutely. For me, what I love most is seeing people that we've either given like their first sale or one of their first bigger sales, to go on and win awards. Like for me, I think of like Benjamin Etheridge.
Yeah,
I just love to see how successful, and he's so talented, and I love to, I'm watching his career go. It's the same when we
yeah,
worked at Horror Library, watching and seeing
right.
where all these people have gone and what they've gone on to do. Some have gone on more into the publishing side, some more into the writing side.
Yeah,
Just watching people grow, and knowing that we had some small part in that.
yeah,
Um, and it's important to me that uh, it's nice when we get bigger name authors that send their stuff in, but they're literally going to be judged exactly the same as everybody else.
right.
People will send me their bios, and it's like, I appreciate your bios because it's nice if I need them later. But
Yeah,
honestly, all I want is your story, right? I
yeah,
just want to see your story, and then we're gonna go through that, um, and then we can go from there, right?
yeah.
Because a good story trumps a good name every
Hundred,
day.
hundred
So
percent, 100%. And I've heard that even some of the big names are still capable of putting out stories that really aren't that great. And I've even heard a few of them mention they love to be caught on it. If something's not right or it doesn't quite work, they don't want to get
well,
sort of riding their own coattails.
we all want to be better, right? We all want to
Right.
do better, be better, and a name is a good thing to have because it means you've worked hard and you've developed and honed your craft. But not everything is right all the time. There's always room for improvements as far as I know.
Yeah.
I'm still working on it anyway, so that's my mantra.
Well, 100%. And the funny thing is that you mentioned that too about the bios and that as well. I mean, and this will kind of lead up to my other question too, is that when you're submitting that stuff, there's a real fine line between presenting yourself well so that your good stuff will get recognized. I remember, and I hope you don't mind giving this plug. It's certainly no competition to you right now. Insidious Reflections was another one that's from a good friend, Chris Hedges, and
That's the one
um,
I was thinking. Yeah, when we were talking earlier, Insidious Reflections. That's the one. Yeah, they were
yeah,
great.
yeah. And I almost got rejected. I mean, I ended up your magazine and their magazine were the two that I really started with. IR came first. Again, all came out of the horror library group that we had. And for people that don't know about it, there's this little thing that Francis Ford Coppola has. It's called Zoetrope, and Zoetrope is basically a writer's workshop where you can submit stories for people to read. You have to review so many before you can get people's reviews, and within that group, there's a whole bunch of smaller what they call offices, which for people that were born before the internet, they're like little news groups kind of thing. And within them, there's one called Horror Library, and that's where a lot of people got together, shared a lot of passion, and like Bailey just mentioned, they've met people, they networked, they've created different magazines. Others have gone on to do great things, etc. with their own writing life. And I remember back to my point with that is that Insidious Reflections, the first thing they did is I submitted a story to them that got accepted, but I found out later on that their slush pile reader almost rejected me because my bio sucked. She was telling me, she's like, yeah, I almost rejected your story just before I even read it because your bio just it completely sucked. I don't remember why it sucked, but it just didn't represent me very well, I guess. Wasn't to the point. And my question regarding that, Bailey, is when you are getting something, what do you find that a lot of people sort of traditionally or typically do wrong when they're presenting their story, their interview, their article, what have you? What's the first thing you look for if to decide if you even want to go ahead and read their stuff?
That they followed our submission guidelines.
Oh, you're supposed to do that?
Priority number one. You know, we have some they're different, but they're simple.
Yeah,
Um, and we do allow a certain amount of leeway for that, but if you're way over, like if you're submitting a 6,000 word story and we've told you straight up 5,000 firm, we're not reading that. You send
yeah,
us a PDF when we've asked for Word, we're not reading that. And that's literally just going to go boom, directly into the G file. And sorry, we're getting so many submissions, we don't have time to sort through that. The bios and stuff, we don't really look at them too heavily, right? I mean, it's nice to know what you've got. I mean,
yeah,
but I don't need 3 pages of your publications. You know, if you want to drop in your top 3 or 4, that's cool, but we don't need every publication that you've had. Um, Mostly, I just want to know that you're providing a story. I'd like to see the word count in the email, but that's not necessary. We didn't ask for that. So if you do, that's great. It just helps me sort them easier. But if you don't, it's not the end of the world. Um, Politeness. I'm a woman. Like if you have to give me a, a, a gender in your email, it'd be nice if you didn't automatically assume I'm male. Um, you don't have to address it to me at all. You can just address it to Dark Recesses. That's cool. I get that a lot actually because Bailey Hunter, right? It's a
right.
very androgynous name, so I do people. It's for whatever reason people assume it's a man. I remember in our previous incarnation of the website, I even had a picture of me up there, and I still got stuff. Dear Mr. Hunter. Um,
Well,
so,
actually,
yeah. But that's okay. That kind of stuff's not going to get you. You know, the things that are going to get you are things like if I get 3 submissions from you all at once, because
yeah,
we have a no simultaneous submissions, right? No multiple subs. So 3 of those all at once, I twitch a little bit.
yeah,
Um, or just if you have questions, literally we say right on there, I give you an email address. If you're unsure, just query first. I'm happy to respond. I will usually respond within 24 hours,
yeah,
generally speaking. Sometime what, and obviously a lot of times a lot faster. But I do try to respond as quickly as possible to queries, especially because I know that they want to get that story in. So I want to make sure that they get it in right and,
yeah.
up their odds. So,
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that too, because I don't know how many times I've seen various publishers, I don't want to say complain, but it really is a complaint, a legitimate one, where a lot of folks will just bombard them and say, "Hey, did you read this yet? Did you read this yet?" Not especially with the independent publishers, where you're not up in a corporation. You don't have 20 floors of people working for you and doing every minute detail. You're a lot of times a one person. I was going to say one man show, a one person show, and I've heard that can get you rejected too. It's like, well, you know what? If you're so eager to hear back from me, here's your story back. I'm good to go. I'm getting on to the next people that aren't harassing
We
me.
yeah, we do have an automatic response with our emails to let people know it could be up to 16 weeks.
Yeah, which is very fair. Some people take a lot longer than that, and
Yeah, and
I think
we
16 weeks
try
is
to,
good.
we're trying to get it done prior to that. Uh, if your story gets moved, passes through our first round of reviewing, because I have what I call slush slashers.
Yeah.
Mouth doesn't want to say it. I can read it fine saying it, doesn't. But we have readers that basically go through and narrow it down. And so, and also part of the reason for them doing the reading is that if someone comes in that I know or that I have a long history with or whatever, there's no favoritism
Yeah.
put towards them. If I put it through my readers, they read it, and then we have a rating scale on a 1 to 5 for maybes. There's rejected, which is rejected outright,
Yeah.
and then we have a maybe scale, and we put those over into the maybe pile. If stuff gets moved over to the maybe pile, it's going to take a lot longer to hear back,
Right.
right?
And
Because
people don't
then it's
understand
going to
that's a
go
good
through
thing.
another round of reviews, and then it's going to go through another final round of as we narrow it down, because we narrow it down and then we narrow it down,
Yeah.
and yeah, and then I make the final selections because I'm picky that way.
And you're the boss.
I'm a bit of a control freak, but yeah, no.
You have to be. You have to have a purpose and something to name those whips
Well,
at,
and
right?
I
So
have an idea of what I want dark recesses to represent, right? So,
yeah.
I give the outset to my readers. I've put up previous issues in our little reading group so that they can go through and get an idea of what it is that I'm looking for
Yeah.
to help them narrow it down as well, because everybody's got different reading interests, right? What
100%.
appeals to one might not appeal to another. So we, give them an idea of what I like, so that helps narrow it down for them as well.
Yeah, and I hope people are realize how fair and positive that is as well. And not only the quick turnaround, but the fact that you do take the time to try to pick the good stuff. I mean, it doesn't really do anybody any good if you just pick anything because oh, I've got this space to fill, and I just need to fill it for the sake of the magazine. And meanwhile, it's maybe not up to par. I mean, it's nice to know that when you get selected, you're the cream that rose to the top, and you're going to be amidst the company you're going to keep in that magazine is also going to be the cream that rose to the top, and you're in good company. You're well represented, and it's kind of the whole thing where it's all rising tides lifts all boats. Well, if you're amongst nothing but quality, it's just going to bode well for the fact that you made it. And if
Yep.
it takes you a while to get that response, that's a good thing. I mean, it's
Yeah, I have to go through and start working on my next round of selections for the website,
yeah.
and let some people know about that they've been moved over to the maybe pile, so that at least they know why they were taking so long.
Yeah. And it's not just lip service. I mean, I've known you for quite a long time. I mean, I wrote some stuff for the last, the first incarnation. I even helped you out with some advertising stuff, but no
Hmm.
favoritism. Very blessed and very grateful that you accepted an interview of mine, but you
Oh, I'm
also
happy to.
rejected some of those drabbles too. So it's not like you're gonna just take anything from me. You're like, I've got a space to fill, but I sent you some stuff. You're like, nope, and that's
Yeah.
cool. So I appreciate that. I'd rather you say no than, yeah, okay, and then everybody else is reading this going, what the hell is this doing here? That's I don't want to be a part of that either if it's not up to what you're
Yeah.
looking for, what the readers are waiting for. So I appreciate that rejection. Not to put you on the spot, you rejected my stuff. How dare you?
You
It's like
rejected me. Yeah.
uh, you
Not
know,
you.
I
Just,
only cried
just,
for a
just
minute.
the words. Not you.
Exactly. Yeah. No, and I appreciate that too. I'm a big boy. I can take rejection, and God forbid if somebody ever tries to get a novel published, if they think this is a tough business trying to get a short story published. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
whole other animal and a
Well, and
long
we have a
time.
very in the print. We do have a very limited amount of space.
Yeah.
And we in our on our submission guidelines, I've listed basically what we're looking for in terms of size, how many of each one. And of course, everybody wants the biggest sale,
Sure.
right? So you get all these like just squeaking along 5,000 words, 4,000, 4,500 to 5,000 words. And it's like,
Yeah.
but I also love flash fiction and
Yeah.
I love the short fiction. Um, and so I think this time we're getting for our next issue because we've already done our selections for the January issue. I'm just in the midst of getting art
Yeah.
back, and so I can get that off to the printers. Um, so we're selecting for next issue, and we're starting to see more of the smaller fiction, which is great because I love it. I think it's a
Yeah.
difficult medium to work with because you're trying to tell an entire story in a very minute space.
Yes.
And so it requires a lot of effort to do that. And it requires recognizing that every word that you use has value, right? So
Really does.
it takes, so we're starting to see more of that, which I love. But I feel bad because, we have to reject so much just simply because not everybody it can be published at 5,000 words. It's just, we just don't have the space for it.
Yeah. I reviewed a book 2 or 3 years ago. It was Horror in 100. I'll give him a shout out because it certainly deserved. He's a writer himself, guy named Kevin Kennedy. He's got an initial in there too. I think it's J. But Kevin, if you're watching, I screwed up your initial. I'm sorry. But it was definitely Kevin Kennedy, and it was cool. I think he had 100 stories in there, and for me personally, I did find there was a good handful that just didn't work, but for the most part, the ones that worked, which was the majority of them, worked really, really well, and it really gave you an appreciation for, and they were drabbles. So drabbles are story in 100 words, and apparently there's dribbles as well that are 50 words. The name just started getting silly after that. I don't know, maybe more less than that as a piddle. I don't know. But it worked really well, and I think it's a great exercise for people. I think it's a way to really get into the trenches. I know when I first started out and I was submitting uh, book reviews and things, I remember starting to send them over to More magazine. I got a full length one, and then I got relegated because it wasn't the best. They were strapped for time, and unfortunately, they worked with me, and it was a decent review, but it could have been better. And they got me writing some of their uh, for the Grim Reader section, which was a book review in about 50 or 60 words,
Right.
which you think that's impossible. Most of their stuff is 300 words, which is tough. But man, I'll tell you, when you get practice writing those little things, you really realize where every word counts. You really realize how to make a quick hook, quick impression, get in, make a point, get out.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get to working on the longer stuff, that the same principles that you use for those little tiny reviews or for the drabble stories or the flash fiction stories, those really do help you. I think when you start getting the longer ones, you're more aware of this word doesn't really count. And hey, I just said something in 20 words. How do I say that in 1 word or 2 words?
Yeah,
And
but
a
it
lot of
also
times you
it
can.
can work against you
True.
because then was it writing and realizing by chapter 3 that I haven't even discussed what my main character looks like at all.
That's true.
Because my brain was like irrelevant information, right? But then it's like, no, wait, that's important.
Yeah.
This is a novel. This isn't a flash fiction. The people actually are going to want to care what she looks like.
Yeah, no,
So
that's a good point.
yeah, everything they all have are important. I'm a fan of the Flash, so it's nice to see that we're getting a bit more of
Yeah, that is good. And have you noticed that too with
it.
regarding the trends? I know, I mean, you've been through a lot of the trends. I mean, I know you said that you started DRP, Dark Recesses back in 2005. I know you've been a lover of books well before that. It was that passion that's launched the birthed DRP. Have you noticed a lot of big trends as far as that goes? The things that people are writing more about, especially when it comes to horror. I know you mentioned a lot more flash fiction
Well,
out there.
obviously, right now trends be tend to be more towards pandemic.
Yeah,
I mean, it's and a little bit more. what I'm seeing or what I'm sort of feeling, it's a lot more uh, almost real. When I want to say real life horrors,
Yeah, like
I'm
almost like
finding
found
that the
fiction, eh?
supernatural, even the supernatural elements or the paranormal elements that we're getting in our stories, tend to sort of circle back around to a more personal, uh, realist kind of way. Um, so, like, if you have a ghost story, it's a much more personal ghost story than, you know,
Yeah.
a violent entity. Monsters, again, even with the monsters, it tends to be more. It's very. I'm just finding it's becoming very personal. Maybe
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to say. It's just that, instead of, it just feels like every person sending in, or the writing seems to be, it's coming from a place inside where it's more about humanity than it is about the monster or the ghost or that whatever. It's more about humanity specifically. Um, but what that's doing is making things darker, and it's also making it more emotive,
Right.
right? I mean, the stuff is darker, but darker in a way that cuts you, cuts you a little deeper, which is nice. Because that's personally, I prefer that. I prefer
Me as
something that
well.
I
Yeah.
like the cool creep. Um, it's serial killer is a serial killer is a serial killer, right?
Yeah.
So, what is your serial killer doing that makes me actually care about that, right? I care
Right.
more about, like, get inside his mind, or tell the story from the mind of the person who knows that they're being hunted, and not in a jump scare scream. Like, all the other stuff is there. It's going to help move your story. It's going to make it more gruesome or make it more terrifying. But really, terror starts here, right? Fear
100%.
starts here. So this is where I want you to hit me, right? I want it to linger. I want whatever you send us to linger. And I'm seeing
Yeah.
that we are getting more of that.
Good.
And yeah, definitely pandemic, post-apocalyptic, but not so much post-apocalyptic in the sense like where it used to be nuclear war.
Right.
Now it's more, definitely more towards the medical or that kind of thing. So, but
Very.
you
Yeah.
expect that, right? We're
I
we're
think
in that
so.
situation, and I mean, horror is a reflection of our times. It's always been a reflection of our times, no
Yeah.
matter what is going on at the time. It's always a reflection of our times. So,
And do you think that makes it more accessible? Because I know, I mean, it's kind of funny. I see both sides of the fence where I've read some people, like for example, I've read the Gwendy trilogy not too long ago with Rich Chismar and Stephen King.
yeah,
And I can remember people reading that and going, nah, but it's not scary. I expect it to be scary, not realizing like a lot of it is, it's kind of fairy tale-ish, but it definitely deals with some more horrific elements. But then at the same time, I think when you've got stuff like that, and that's just one quick example off the top of my head, where it's a lot
yeah.
more
There
accessible
are
for
some
people that
people
don't read
who
horror.
want. I mean, with our movies and whatnot, we obviously have become desensitized to some degree of
Yeah,
what we actually consider scary, right? And
absolutely.
if you're scared by body horror, then yeah, Dark Recesses isn't going to be the place for you. You're not. It's not. It's probably not going to be the stuff that you're interested in.
Yeah,
But it's we keep upping the ante as far as what we're going to be scared by,
yeah,
and so it makes it harder to be scared by what we're reading because we've already seen so much worse. It's not like, when I was a kid, right, and
right.
Nightmare on Elm Street came out. I love that movie. That was just beyond fantastic because the very
Yeah,
concept that they could get you in your dreams, like Freddy could get you in your dreams,
yeah.
was
What a jerk.
new. It was brand new, it was fresh, and that alone was terrifying. Plus, it was
Right.
funny.
Oh,
It was also
absolutely.
funny. And
Yeah.
so, you got to mix those horror and humor, which, is probably my favorite kind of genre when it comes
Mine
to
too.
movies.
I mean, I'm wearing a American Werewolf in London shirt here, and that was they blended
Yeah,
out really well.
absolutely, that kind of thing. So, you know, we're a long way away from that kind of, like, we are so much further than that when it comes to the horror that we're fed visually.
Yeah.
So that, and when we're reading, there's always going to be some that just make you squirm and make you, oh my god, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
And no matter how many, how much you read, that, there are certain authors that are still going to take you to the darkest. You thought you were already in the darkest place, and they found a new layer for you, right?
Yeah.
But it's I think that I like the kind that lingers, not the kind that terrifies me in the moment. I like the stuff that lingers, where, I'm laying in bed, and it pops up in my head again. I'm like, ooh, yeah, that would be awful. Yeah, or stuff that just sort of sits there in my brain pan and stews, and so it's not an immediate horror, or it is, but it's not. It's a subtle horror that just grows.
Right. It's almost I don't know, maybe the difference of going out and hitting the back roads in a car and taking sharp turns and making it really exciting, and you think, wow, that was awesome. That was a little scary at first, but that's the end of it, as opposed to, I don't know, you get in some horrific car accident, or you're driving away from some monster or some shadow or something that's trying to get you, and then afterwards you're thinking, oh my God, what, we got out of that alive. Thank God, that was scary, but what was that really all about? And you're thinking
Yeah,
about it,
what
it's lingering,
actually
and
happened there, and like, what's yeah,
yeah, I
you're
got
much
some
more
questions to
scared of the
answer.
bump in the dark
Yeah,
than you are of, somebody jumped out at you from the shadow.
exactly.
You're like, immediate scare, and I'm good. But if
Yeah.
you just keep hearing the scratching in the dark, that terror is just there. That fear is there. That trepidation is constant. You're like, why? What is that? And you search and you can't find it, and it's like, so it's stuck with you, right?
Yeah, I think I'm certainly always more afraid of the monster that I can't see, or than the one that I can see. It's okay. I know what I'm up against. It's probably going to kill me, but I can see what's going on here, and there's no real questions. It's just a matter of survive, survive, as opposed to I don't even know what it is I'm supposed to prepare against here. So what's
Yeah,
going on?
absolutely.
Is it inside of me? And I think that's a lot of what the pandemic did. Certainly, is it made people think a lot more sort of inwards, and all of a sudden the people around them, they humanity itself kind of became the monster. I know certainly at the very beginning of it, where at least for me, I'd be walking around and I'd see somebody coming towards me. I'd walk across the street because, God forbid, they got in my bubble, and it's almost like the zombie apocalypse, except everybody's, are
Yeah,
they a
everybody's
zombie? Do they
trying to
have it?
avoid
And
everybody. Where's your mask? Why don't you have a mask? Or, like getting into each other's spaces. What have you touched? And, you know, somebody has a little,
yeah,
and you're like, panic, panic, right?
exactly.
So,
Nothing kills a long lineup than somebody with a chronic cough.
yeah,
It's like, I'm out of here. It's like, all right.
absolutely.
Not that I've ever done that, of course.
No, no, no,
No,
yeah.
but I would imagine the option would be there. So, and I know, speaking of the trends in a lot of the books that are out there too, one thing that I have to say that I was a bit ignorant to, but when I was looking at your website, that I thought you did a great job, and
Well, thank you.
um, th- thank you, because it seems like it's so bloody rare that a lot of times publishers will post up sort of kind of what their guidelines are, and that's about it. You really have to fill in the blanks. And you have such amazing transparency and full disclosure, where, like you said before, you actually list on there, this is what each of our magazine is. It's going to have this many articles for this many for this. So people know what they're up against as far as competition, and realize what a big deal it is to kind of squeeze into that tight spot. Um, but also on the website too, you talk about a lot of the books that you publish, and I had no idea that you published that many books, because when you went on, I'm not going to say at the end of Dark Recesses Press because that's obviously not true, but the
Well,
hiatus,
we did the magazine hiatus and we moved over to books,
right?
and then we acquired Bellfire Press, and absorbed their library. So yeah, I think there's like around 24 books in our library right now.
How did that come about when you took over Bellfire Press and you got that folded
Um,
in?
it was posted up that they were looking for somebody, so I just chatted with her and we figured out what would work, and and yeah, moved that
Okay.
over. Obviously, a lot of the titles have been around for a while, so it's not a
Yeah.
lot of new titles, but there's everything. Right now, our library has everything from very young, so like Run by Vince Churchill
Okay.
is an illustrated book, and it is meant for children probably up to, I would say, maybe age 7.
Oh, okay.
It's for little kids. It's great. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
And then we've got another book called, I believe it's called The Adventures of Captain Kitchen. And it's about a dude that decides he's going to have to be a superhero because he's seeing his community suffer. And so he becomes, he's like a fry cook or something, and he decides he's going to help sort out the neighborhood. Um, it's a little violent, so it's for older kids, but it's
Okay.
still a kids. We've got Christine Morgan, who obviously is she's brutal. I mean,
Yeah.
when she's besties. She works with Ed Lee a lot, so you can sort of
Oh,
tell where
okay.
that. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
brutal, and she's got some amazing work. We've got a couple of hers on there. We've got everything from paranormal romance to horror erotic to you know all the
Yeah.
sort of pieces in between. And obviously, each book will have a sort of an idea of where you're at in terms of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very varied. It all
Yeah.
sits on the dark side, but it's very varied from light dark, that nice gray
Yeah.
dark to wow, that's black. Wow, that's really dark. Yeah, like I need a
Nice.
flashlight to read this. But yeah, so it's everything in between, and it's nice.
It's like
Like
fun for the whole family. You can do all your shopping for yourself, your kids, and then everybody all one stop.
exactly, absolutely. Something
Very
for
nice.
everyone, for sure.
Get them while they're young and make scary
Yeah.
things fun,
Exactly. Run is
and then make
great
them
for
pay
that.
for it when they're older. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Did you absorb some of the team as well? I mean, I
No,
imagine that
no.
from 2005 to now, it's not exactly the same as getting the
It's
band back
not the
together.
same team, no. Unfortunately, the people that I worked with previously have, clearly gone on to,
Yeah,
bigger and better things with their own lives, doing this and that and the next thing. And, I would love, absolutely love to have my original core group back because they were freaking amazing.
yeah,
CJ Hurt and Boyd Harris.
yes,
Couldn't ask for better people to work with. And then we had Michael Dixon.
yeah,
And then yourself with the advertising so we've had some really fantastic people working with us, and
yeah.
now I have a new group. Right now my readers, let me just pull up, I want to make sure I get their names right, so I don't want to call somebody the wrong thing, so just give me
Yeah,
1 second here because I'm going to make
sure.
sure I say it right. So right now I have 3 readers. We're looking for more because obviously the more we do, the harder it gets.
Yeah,
So we have Amanda Bouchard, Shanna Wynn,
okay,
and Amelia Gormangast,
okay.
who are the ones that are currently doing our reading. They go through a lot of it and narrow it down for me. Like I said, are looking to add to that because it's a lot of work, right?
It is a
Even with
lot of
three,
work.
it's a lot of work to go through and read. They're reading a lot of stories every day. And so it's nice if I could narrow it down because then I can steal a couple of them to help me with other stuff.
Exactly, exactly.
But
Because that's got to be tough. Because I mean, I know that you're capable of doing it all. I believe you've got a background in you worked for a newspaper press or something back in the day, I think.
I've done, well, I started working with newspaper. That was
Okay.
way, way back. And then I
Yeah.
worked for a print shop
Okay.
doing design. Did a lot of that. And then I did some direct marketing and again back to design. And so I have a lot of design experience. I have the understanding for marketing, although, I would kill to have a marketing person so I don't have to do that because it's exhausting.
Yeah. Wink, wink.
Um,
Anybody out there?
Yeah, anybody want to do it for free? Yeah, because I'm poor. Yeah. All the money that I get in right now is
Goes right
100%
back
going
into it.
back out. Absolutely. Everything, because obviously restarting a magazine, you have to have X amount of money
Yeah.
for because you got to pay your authors, and we opted to do for the print 5 cents a word because that is the minimum required
To
um,
prorate.
for prorate.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's not it allows people who gets published in us to apply to memberships in HWA,
Yeah.
right? Which they are an amazing program that does help a lot of people with their mentorship programs and other things. So it's important to me that we can help them in that quest as well.
Yeah.
Um, and then we also pay for the web fiction. We pay for the artists.
Okay.
We pay for nonfiction when it's in print. So it's a lot of money going out, plus the print costs. There's no advertising in the magazine at this point. So it's not like we're
Uh,
making money off of advertising. So for us, it's
yeah.
really all about the sales.
And that is amazing. I mean, that was the one thing that I was legitimately very surprised with, because maybe you feel the same way. I don't want to assume that you do. I'm gonna guess you probably do, but it really irks me to no end when I see these. I can't call them anything but a fan fiction zine. Where I mean, don't get me wrong. There are some great ones out there, but it's amazing where there's a lot of publications out there that they're asking you for 5,000 word stories. You'll pour your heart into nothing but your best. They've got very specific guidelines. This is exactly what we're looking for, and we'll give you a digital copy. That's it. And they don't pay you anything for that,
The
which
one yeah, and for like, I mean, for the love of markets are necessary.
yeah,
Not everybody. It's better if you can pay at least a token amount,
right,
right? Like, I mean, you're asking people, but if you're doing a for the love of market, you have to recognize that you aren't going to get as great of product simply because you're going to be taking away their publishing. It's no longer going to be, unpublished work that's going to another place. And a lot of places
right,
don't take reprints. And once they take your story, if it goes there first, then everywhere else it goes, it's a reprint, and that's just the facts.
yeah,
And I mean, depending on what their contracts say, like what kind of rights are they asking for? They're asking you to give up a ton of rights, or give them a ton of rights to your story, but they're not gonna pay you for it. Yeah. So
exactly,
I do believe that For the Love of Market has a place. I think it has a place for, especially for new and emerging writers who just want to be able to go through the process and
yeah,
whatnot. But as an author, it's your job to be very aware of where you're putting your stuff and what it means if you're going to hit For the Love of Market. It's not that you, like, I'm not going to tell anybody that they're terrible, and I'm not going to tell
yeah,
anybody that it's the best place to be, because really it's up to the individual who's submitting to that, whether or not they're comfortable giving their work away or not. Right? That's
yeah.
100% up to them. But if they choose to go to a For the Love of Market, and they feel that it is a good fit for them and it is something that they want to do, just make sure that their rights are being taken care of and that their needs for future publications with that particular story aren't going to be completely obliterated, right? Like,
Yeah, and you would hope too that for those ones that they also get some benefit, and if you're submitting to a for the love market and the story needs a bit of work, that they at least are willing to work with you, and you can at
instead of
least get some
slapping
experience.
it up, yeah. Yeah,
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
for me, I'm sorry, I don't want anything that we're going to have to do a lot of work. Like we make
Yeah.
it, we've gotten stories that are, the premise of the story is fantastic. The story
Yeah.
itself is actually pretty decent, but there's just too much work, right?
Right.
And I don't, it's not anything personal. I think that
Right.
you're gonna have, you keep tinkering with this and you'll do great, but we're not your trunk stories. We're not a
Yeah.
place for your trunk stories. You need to take time and put the effort in, and do think that, when you're submitting it to us, it has to be as clean as it possibly can. Whereas, yeah, not, I mean, there are some great for the love of markets out there.
Right.
I know, I know a couple of them, and they're great. They do put in the effort. They put in the effort all the time to make sure that whatever they're putting up for you is of the highest caliber that they can provide to their readers, and that's
Right.
great. Um, but there are, and there always has been. It's the same with publishers with books, though, right? We're going
True.
to give you royalties,
Yeah.
and royalties are hard. It's a difficult thing because you're trying to sell the book and stuff like that, and so those royalties are usually often so nominal that by the time it takes forever to get to your minimum payout amount, right?
Right. And I think a lot
Um,
of it comes. Sorry, go ahead.
but there are publishers out there who thought it would be cool to put out a book and they just throw whatever in the book with zero editing and you know
Yeah, I've been in some of those before too, and it's like, yeah, it really doesn't. It's not a notch in my belt at all.
yeah,
So I hope they didn't do much marketing for this because I don't want that
yeah,
many people to read this.
exactly. It's like it's okay if it dies, but yeah. So
Yeah, and I think a lot of it comes down to trust as well, because I mean, certainly there's a few, and I'd be remiss to mention one fan fiction that I think is doing quite well without mentioning other ones, and then go, well, what about us? We're doing great things too, and I don't want to discredit people by not mentioning the ones that deserve to be mentioned.
exactly, which is
But
sort of why I didn't.
I know, I think we're probably thinking at least a couple of the same ones, and I'm thinking of names and stuff too. Um, but I think it's important to realize, okay, what are the signs that you should or can trust this person, especially when it comes to longevity? I mean, there's a few of them out there that have just plain been doing this for a long time, and there's a reason for that. They
Yep,
might only be digital, but okay, well, what's the production value in that digital copy? Does it look like crap? Is it great artwork? Is it well laid out and simple? Is it,
absolutely.
hard on
And
the
I
eyes
mean,
or,
I encourage any author if they're looking to submit somewhere and they're not sure, ask. Do some
yeah,
research about where you're going to send it off. It'd be just like if you were going for a job, right? You're going for a job
right,
interview. You research the company that you're going to so that you know what you're walking into. And it's the same thing with publishing and everything else. I
yeah,
mean, I know that for a lot of the people submitting now, we're new to them,
yeah.
right? But Dark Recesses isn't new.
No, no,
We've been through a lot of revolving concepts and ideas, but
yeah.
I've wanted to bring back the magazine for quite some time. But until life actually settled down enough for me to be able to do that.
I know, right? Like, I can't understand why you didn't just decide to drop everything, stay where you were, don't move to another country, another province first. So I guess you kind of graduated to get, moving to another country and,
First, we moved
getting
across
married
country,
and
then we moved, yeah, to a new country. Yeah,
you're in, if you don't mind saying, if you do, let me know,
I'm
but
in
you're,
Pennsylvania now.
oh, okay. Why did I think Buffalo, Pencil? Okay.
No, Pennsylvania. Yeah,
There's,
I had to move across the country first. So
yeah,
while I was working on my visa process, so that I could actually, my fiance then
yeah,
could drive back and forth with each other because Vancouver to where I'm at was a very long distance,
yes,
basically other ends of the continent.
yeah.
Um,
And who wants to go all the way across Canada?
we did that. We drove across Canada. It was no fun because we did it in January.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, but yeah, and so yeah, down here now.
There's a lot of creative forces down there. I mean, I know
Mhm.
there's tons of them. I mean, Brian, obviously the most popular one, I guess, is Brian Keane, and then
Yeah.
his pal John Urbanza came to move down there too, and I think Wesley Southard is down there if I'm not mistaken, and
Yeah, no, there's quite a few, and
there's.
it's nice because I only have one con planned for next year at this point, and that's the Scares That
I
Cares.
was gonna ask you if you're gonna show up for that.
Yeah,
I'd
we're gonna
love to
be
get out there.
there. Already got my ticket, got my hotel booked,
Oh,
got
that's
my
great.
table set, so we'll be
Yeah,
there.
cool.
But so nothing else really planned at this time, but where we're located, I'm only like 2 hours out of New York. Um,
Okay.
I'm so the East tends to be a bit more of a hub for smaller conventions and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
as we're moving along, we can probably start doing a little bit more of that. Um, traveling and do stuff that's within driving distances. And as a Canadian, driving distance is a lot different than an American.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Especially when
yeah,
you're doing so much construction and crappy roads and all the rest of it. So,
yeah. No, it's funny because it's like I used to drive 5.5 hours north to go visit friends and for the
yeah,
kids to visit family and stuff like that and get and then moving out to Ontario to drive to see Sweetie, it was like another 5 hours back each way. And I'm like, you know 5 hours sort of takes it almost out of the realm of a day trip, but not quite, you know
exactly.
so down here it's like, it's only 5 hours away, that's not so bad.
I know I was chatting with who was it? Dominic Stefano and Dave Rash. They put together a book for Outer Limit scripts from Dominic's dad, Joseph Stefano. And there was a convention going on over there, I guess, specifically for like sci-fi stuff. And oh, where the heck? I want to say Pennsylvania. I think it was a convention around Pennsylvania. And I remember Dave was saying to me, he's like, "Yeah, just come on over. That's like what, about maybe 3, 4 hours or something like that." And I'm like, "You realize it might take me that long to get across the border, right? Like,
Yeah.
never mind getting
Point,
there and
yeah.
then traveling around and factoring in getting lost." And because I'm a Canadian, or I shouldn't say that, I guess, because a lot of Canadians actually, if you tell them go this far north, they'll know where you're supposed to go. I have no idea. I mean, I would use a compass and I'd be like, I guess I go this way. There's a
That's what
whatever.
GPS is for, man.
Exactly, yeah. Dude, I moved to a new area. I remember when I moved to Toronto and I used my phone GPS just to find out how to walk back around the block to
Oh,
get to
been
my
there, done
house.
that.
So
Yeah.
yeah, if I can get lost, I will,
Yeah, I'm pretty
100%.
much the
So
same way. My first trip anywhere, I always factor in getting lost time.
yeah, exactly. I remember people would be like, "Well, you hit in a lot of dark alleys. You must be some kind of bad man or something." So, I just get lost a lot. I want to get out of here.
Yeah.
So. And I know, speaking of meandering all over the place and stuff too, I know since you've started the Dark Recesses Press, you've no doubt had a lot of really cool experiences. I mean, um, it's cool too. Some of the names that are on the magazines too. A lot of those guys that nobody had heard of before, they're still around. They're still doing their thing. I know, like the one on here that I was just looking at and reminiscent was, and I'll give him a shout out because he's on the cover. AJ Brown. And I mean,
Oh yeah.
he's spin out so many things. I've done some reviews for his stuff. Fantastic author. He's still doing his thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this actually kind of ties in perfectly. I segued myself perfectly here accidentally because AJ actually did an interview with Jack Ketchum. He was over my shoulder here,
Yep.
and it's cool because I think that epitomizes really what you do too. So you've got an up and comer that's actually merged in with obviously a big name in the horror community, and
Yep.
even though he's sadly we've lost him about three
Very
or four
sad.
years
Dallas was a
ago.
wonderful man.
Yeah, and it's so cool to see his name is still popping up all over the place. People are still dissecting
He
his
was one of
work.
the ones that I was thinking of where, then you've got the darker places that are so dark. He's one of the ones that, yeah, he can still scare you. Like his work,
Yeah,
even if you're super desensitized, yeah,
he'll
go and
he'll
visit
get you.
Jack Ketchum, yeah.
And he straddles the line too. I mean, he can make you cry in one story and make you scared in the next one, and
Yeah, I
just
think one of my
incredible.
one of my one of my proudest moments was when at KillerCon we did the erotic horror,
Yeah.
and after I did my story, he's like, "Okay, that just creeped me right out. That was super uncomfortable."
Yes.
And I'm like, "Yes, I creeped out." Oh
That
yeah.
is incredible. Yeah. Yeah. And he doesn't say that stuff easily either. I mean, I don't think anything creeps him
Well,
out.
no, but apparently he didn't like snakes, so that worked for my favor.
He's great. Now I can't think of him as like he's like the Indiana Jones of horror now.
Snakes. Why does it have to be snakes?
Exactly. That is so cool. And it's so awesome too. I mean, as you probably know too, I mean, you've got probably far more stories than I do about meeting all these amazing people. And you come across these guys that you expect them to be absolutely brooding guys, and storm clouds over their head, and flames coming out of their mouth. They're the nicest, humblest guys in the world.
Absolutely. I have said right from the word go, like since our very first convention, um, it amazed me how beautiful and wonderful and inviting and kind and open the horror community is. Like,
Really
I
is.
say, I figure it has to be because they get their demons all out on paper.
I
It's
agree.
got to
Yeah.
be why, because
Yeah.
truly, like, just the nicest people. I mean, every community is going to have its, thorns here and there, but
Sure.
as an overall community, the kindness and generosity of mentoring and sharing information and helping each other uh,
Yeah.
get higher up and to build and grow and learn and just sharing and introducing and networking, like everybody is so generous with their time, their
Yeah.
information, and just their kindness, which I love it. It's one of the reasons that I
Yeah.
stay and got stuck in it and why I love it and
And
want to
you
be
said
part
it
of it.
best.
Yeah,
It really is an amazing community. And yeah, I found the same thing too. I mean, Ketchum or Dallas Mayer, his real name. I mean, I remember I met him for the first time. I chatted with him over the phone. We did a couple of email exchanges and interviews and stuff like that. But then when I met him, I was so anxious. I'm not really the starstruck kind of guy, but at the same time, I don't want him to think I'm a dork. So I was kind of nervous in that. And I met him in Toronto at the Festival of Fear when the Roomworks Festival of Fear was part of Fan Expo. They're separate now.
right.
But I remember Beeline into his place because I'm like, all right, I've got this much money, so I'm going to go to his booth first, get this out of the way, get my nerves out. And like within minutes, he signed all my books. He was a nice guy. And then I guess he had to go pee really, really badly. So he had me and my girlfriend at the time standing by his booth, and we were, Jack Ketchum for a minute as he's racing across through all these people trying to find a washroom before things got scary for him. And then it was such a cool experience. And then I can remember Brian Keane, I met him also in Toronto. It was June the 6th, 2006. It was a 666 thing, so that's why I remember the date.
Yeah.
And he was doing a reading there, and he sat, I think he was staying with Monica at the time, so they're friends, of course, book editor for Rue. And I sat beside him, and it was the coolest thing. So I'm thinking, oh my God, okay, don't be a dork, don't be a dork. But it was so easy not to be a dork because he was just a natural,
Yeah,
nice
Brian's
guy
very
and
nice too. Brian, actually,
so
my
giving with his time.
very first thing I ever signed for anybody was for him.
Yeah.
And that was at Dark Delicacies
Okay.
yeah, in California, because
Yeah.
that was it was at a convention, of course.
Yeah.
Um, and then, yeah, no, I've seen him off and on through the years, through the various conventions, although it's been a while, because the last convention I've been to was, which one was it? It was I believe it was World Horror. I don't know. It was in Utah. Yeah, it was a
Oh,
World
so
Horror in Utah. So it was like
so
2016?
okay.
No, no, that's not true. 2017, Scares of Care. That was the last convention I've been to. So,
Gotcha. Yeah,
in a
that's what I
long
want to
time. And
go to.
yeah,
It's
he pulled me aside and he did a podcast with me because we had just taken over Bellfire at that time and I was getting
okay.
things ready. Um, so yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
no,
the
some
coolest
really nice
people.
people. Yeah, some very nice people. Um, and lots of interesting things. Like Peter Straub again, dude can tell a story. Wow. So
I bet, eh?
I was awestruck because he was at World Horror Con in 2006 in San Francisco,
Okay.
and I got pulled up to be on a judging panel, flash fiction judging panel with him, F. Paul Wilson,
Oh,
and Fido
jeez.
Almonte. And I'm sitting up there going,
No pressure.
fangirl, fangirl, fangirl. I'm just totally a mess.
How do you
But
not?
I know. But he told stories for like 2 days, and like when he started talking, and he was hilarious and captivating and super kind and super open, and it's like I'm literally sitting here with an icon, and yeah, no.
I know, and it really, I mean, I don't know what it is. I don't know if they're just like their own self-made therapists or something with, like you said, exercise and their demons. And I mean, I can remember even
I think
not
it's
that long ago. What's
yeah.
that? Sorry?
I was just gonna say, I just think it's maybe it's just honesty. You know that everybody's having troubles, but they're honest about it, and
Right.
that humanity is there. They don't have to pretend.
Exactly. Yeah, and they've explored all this. They know where they fit in with the world, and they're comfortable in their own skin. They're comfortable around other people. They're
Hmm.
aware of the monstrosities that we all deal with and the struggles a lot of us face. And
Yeah,
if they can help a little bit by taking us to a scary place in a safe way where we're gonna get out alive, then yeah, like I think that just comes across in their day-to-day living of who they are.
yeah.
Is there anybody that you have worked with before that, whether they're, a name or they're just starting out, that kind of really struck you as far as maybe their stories or things specific about them that really impressed them, where you're like, damn, I wasn't expecting that, from that particular person.
Um,
I'm sure there's several to sift
I
through, so
am, well, yeah, I mean, there's obviously, a few here and there that sort of pop up. But I'm going to go back to Ben Etheridge.
yeah.
Uh, his work from the very first time was impressive. And we had multiple readers. I think we published two, maybe three of his stories.
Okay.
Um, but just watching him go, and it was not surprising in the sense that his work is impeccable, his work ethic is impeccable. So that was that part too. And just his stories were always, they were just that perfect blend of this is weird and this is creepy and this is, it's well crafted. And yeah, so I found he definitely is one of the ones that definitely stands out inside in my head and always has.
Yeah.
Um, Trying to think, we've got a few other ones. Uh, I know Michael Dixon doesn't write a whole lot, but
He
him,
should.
yeah, he absolutely should. He's
Yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah.
Um, and trying to think of, there's been a couple of stories. Like I think even it might even be on one of those covers. I'm not
Yeah, I was
sure.
just gonna look
Eric
back because I think,
Williams.
yeah, he is in. So I'm looking
And I
at.
believe it's Rings by Eric Williams.
Let me double check here. Chris Perez, AJ Brown is in this one. Yes, good call. So, and do you still have these available in back issues?
I
So I
do
know this is
not
really
because
glossy.
no, those ones are not in back issues. They're not available anymore because the contracts were, there's a
Gotcha.
time limit, right? So,
Okay.
I would love to be able to produce those in back issues and make them available, because there is some of our greatest work and some beautiful artwork as well.
I know, like, look at this artwork. Like, this is just phenomenal. Like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah. No,
great
he's
stuff.
got great work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's I was always impressed with our cover artists. Like our
Yeah.
artwork came from.
And Ramsey freaking Campbell.
Oh yeah. Also, he was another one that was made me nervous, and yeah, when I met him, he's a nice guy.
Super nice.
Super
I
nice.
part of a group. I don't know if you are. I recommend them. In Facebook, it's called the Books of Horror.
Yes, actually, I
So,
am.
okay, cool. I wasn't sure. So I remember there's always the odd troll, and there's this one person that's just trolling me to no end, and I don't remember what the heck it was. I think I might have had okay, wait for it, a difference in opinion about something.
No.
I know, right? I think it was
How dare
a
you?
book. I know, and this person just ripped me a new one. Was going on. I think involved my family and didn't know them, but just maybe creeped me and said things, and it was just horrible. And I was literally ready to quit this group. I'm like, I've had it, and it was just maybe caught me at the wrong time. Usually, I've got a pretty good thick skin to this stuff. I'm just like,
Yeah, but you know
whatever.
what? Sometimes it's just you reach a point. It's like this is we're allowed to have differences of opinion.
Yeah. But what made me stay though was Ramsey Campbell. He actually jumped in there to my defense and said a couple of really nice things to me, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'm gonna stick around. There's some good people here."
Yeah.
Of all the people, and I hadn't interacted personally with Ramsey. Obviously, I know of him, and that, but that was my first actual interaction, so it was cool. I mean, here he is, a very bright needle in a haystack with thousands of
Hmm.
people, and he just jumped out and just, yeah, it
Yeah,
was such a
and
cool
that's
thing.
that's what I mean about the horror community is you get there's a more of that.
Yeah,
It's like right now, um, I'm not I don't read Bizarro. It's not really my thing. But I
yeah,
know that is Melnick is
yeah,
a talented man. And there's this thing going all over where somebody with a Goodreads, or posted some basically slamming the haunted vagina. And it's like if it's not your gig, then don't read it,
yeah,
right? It's quite simple. I'm not going to review bizarro fiction um, if I don't understand it, if it doesn't appeal to me, because I'm coming from, it's the same thing as, I wouldn't, there are other genres, whether it's, super sappy historical romance. Probably
right,
I'm not going to read that and review that, because why would I? That's not my genre.
exactly.
You might surprise me and I might enjoy it. But the reality is if I don't, that's more about who I am and what my interests are. So,
Yeah,
they're and it's making the rounds. It's like they've turned it into a meme and it's making the rounds on Facebook. And it's nice to see the people popping up and saying, no, this is a great book. This was a fun book. Like you need to,
yeah,
put your biases aside. And what are you trying to troll somebody for
enjoying
something they
something.
wrote that's yeah and he's a really nice guy and he's so quiet.
Maybe that's why he gets it a lot in this kind of stuff, eh?
Yeah,
Like
but
it's,
yeah, so and that's to me is like again, you can choose not to like something. You don't
yeah,
have to drag someone down to tear it apart. I mean, unless it's really truly vile,
yeah,
right? And then when I say truly vile, I mean in like it's harmful to other people.
right,
Not truly vile as in this is, offends my sensibilities, but truly vile in the sense that you're harming someone in another person.
yeah.
Then yeah, that's not a difference of opinion. That's you're a bad person. But if it's just a matter of I don't like the subject matter, then
Exactly.
we have this amazing ability to go. And not my monkeys, not my circus, walking on,
Next
right?
channel. There's more stuff out there that you can enjoy.
Absolutely. The world is full of things. You can find the things that make you happy and bring you joy. You do not have to take joy in tearing somebody else down because they didn't provide it for you.
Right. Like I'm not into personally like body horror and well not necessarily body horror, I like some of that stuff, but the gross out stuff, the shocking stuff. And again, I don't want to mention names because I don't want to throw them under a bus at all, but certainly, and I'm sure you've seen them too through the books of horror, where these there are certain books that will pop up with that are meant to gross you out, to disgust you, and
Hmm.
to make you want to lose your lunch if you're reading it, or
Yep,
vomit
and
what you
that's
ate 5 years ago or something.
absolutely. And there are
But
people that are fantastic at that.
sure,
Sean McKenzie is
yeah,
great at that. I mean, but he also is good at, making it a little bit funny too sometimes. So it makes it a little bit
exactly,
easier to swallow before it comes back up.
yeah. That analogy had texture to it, Bailey. I just swallowed at the same time. How do you know it?
Everything I can do to help.
Good job. Thank you. So yeah, no, exactly. I mean, that's what I don't get too. Like a lot of people that like will call that stuff smut or gratuitous. I mean, like again, back to our old friend Dallas Mayer, Jack Ketchum. I mean, the girl next door. I mean, there's still people that call it, pornography or whatever, and it's like
Yeah.
you're
Well,
missing
but
the
it
point
is
of
one
this.
that no matter who reads it, no matter how jaded they think they are, they get to the end of that and go, "This movie, this book wrecked me." It's
Yeah,
like, yeah, and that's because he's a talented writer. And if you
absolutely.
met him, you'd be like, where did that come from? But
Yeah, and if you asked them, it's like, wow, this really pissed me off. How could you? It's like it pissed you off. It shocked you. It disgusted you. Good, that was the point.
yeah,
Now go have those conversations.
yep, exactly.
That was 100% the point of that. And I guess on the flip side of that too, Bailey. So as you're going along with Dark Recesses Press, and I'm so excited. I can't believe it's coming back. It's and the cover of it too. So anybody who hasn't gone to it, it's darkrecessespress.com is the website, I believe.
That's correct.
Okay, so go to that, check it out. You've got the cover of it, and I honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I know we've got some longevity history here, but I'm not just saying this to be nice. I legitimately got goosebumps looking at this thing because it really
Isn't
holds
it
a special
beautiful?
place in my heart. It's a gorgeous image of a phoenix. And when I first found out that Dark Recesses Press was coming back, of course, I had this image of, the phoenix rising from the ashes. It's back again, and you put it right on your freaking cover. Even thinking about it, I got goosebumps. Like it's so awesome.
Yeah,
And
it's a beautiful cover. I'm super happy. The artist is also doing five of the illustrations for the internal stories because every story inside also has
yep,
artwork to accompany it.
which is so
Um,
cool.
yeah, so I'm just waiting on my final stories. He's sent me a couple. I got a couple more to come in, and then we're off to press. So
That is awesome. So, and
yeah,
that's who's the artist, by the way?
he's going by Vincent Bailey.
Okay.
He's working on getting a website together with some of his art because he's been doing commission work, but he's never really put it together a website specific
Hmm.
towards it.
Okay.
He had a DeviantArt account, but he wants something a little bit more professional for that. So,
Yeah.
well, once you've got that together, you can give me that, and I'll try to, if I even if I can't get it the web set up for the print, I can always update the digital with that. So,
Cool. And I was going to ask you that as well, because I know it's obviously as somebody that put out a book and has a bit of an idea that of how much bloody work it is to put anything together in print, let alone digital. They're two very different formats, so it's almost
hmm
like you have to create two separate entities. Do you have an option as well to do like a print on demand for the magazine as well,
what do you mean?
for Dark Recesses Press?
We're going to be printing,
Uh,
right? So it's going to
okay.
be hardcover, like it's going to be hard copy. It's going to be perfect bound.
Oh,
At
okay.
this point, it's looking to be about 60 pages, because again, there's no advertising in it.
Yeah.
So there might be some filler ads for Dark Recesses, but that's about it.
Yeah. Exactly.
But not just small spaces.
Just the meat.
Uh,
No peas and carrots.
no extra pages specifically dedicated to advertising at this point or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but it's going to be available in print. So the
That is
print
amazing.
will be available. We're looking for January 1st, if we can get our
Okay.
printers back in time for that.
Right.
And then if you purchase the print, you will be also have the opportunity or the choice, because some people don't want to have a free download of a digital copy as well.
Yeah. Awesome.
Once I get everything set up, for the digital copies, I'll be making it available in three formats. So it'll be PDF, Mobi, or EPUB, so that you
Okay.
can download it for however you want to be able to download it for your particular digital needs.
Cool.
Um, so if you buy print, you will have the option to download digital for free. You don't have to if you don't want to, if that's not your, for some people, I don't need it,
Yeah.
right? It's clutter. So it's not a forced download for the digital. It'll be an option that they can select.
Okay.
And then there's also the digital uh, will be available, and it'll be available on those three. So print is $11.99. So you'll get the print plus the option for your digital, and
Yeah.
then digital is $4.99 for the
Okay.
issue.
Very fair.
Um, there's also subscriptions where you can save 25% off the cover right price for either print or digital. And you'll have to go to the website because my brain stopped.
And it's
I believe
bi-monthly,
it's
correct?
14.99 for the digital, I believe, and 36 or 37 for the print. I think it's 36 for the print for a
Okay. Oh,
subscription.
and it's per season, I guess, right? Quarterly?
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
for a subscription, you would get four magazines,
Oh,
right?
okay. Cool.
So, and if you decided to get a subscription later on, I would just send you copies. It'll be your back issues. You'll get copies of the back issues. So,
That's
like if
very
somebody
cool. Okay.
jumps in late,
Yeah.
but they decided to do a subscription because it's easier for me if we do the subscription for the years instead of trying to move forward.
Yes, you can plan ahead better.
Um, yeah, so I would probably just do back issues. As we grow and we move, that might change. But for
Yeah.
me right now, is with the limited amount of staff I have to try and keep things as easy for me to make sure that everybody's getting what they need. Yeah,
Yeah.
buy it. Just buy it,
Get it.
right?
Support indie publishing and your already favorite authors out there as well.
Absolutely. This issue we have some great, some great names that I haven't heard, as well as a couple that I have. So that's always nice. The It ranges everything from your standard monster type horrors, down to your basic human horrors. Some of the horrors are based in reality, some are supernatural. Um, you got your monsters, you've got your ghosties kind of thing. Some of those favorites that you're comfortable
Okay.
with, and some new stuff. Uh, I feel like that we got some really great stuff, and all different sizes as well. Again, like everything from close to 5,000, from 500 to 5,000.
Which I
So
love too, because you don't always have time to sit down to read a 5,000 one, but then if you're on the run, you don't want to think, oh man, I guess I'll just have to read some of the stuff later. Well, there's time. You can read some of the shorter
yeah,
ones, which is
absolutely,
great.
you can poke through and take a look and see what it is. Um, we've got the other thing is that moving forward, once we've got things on a roll more comfortably, I'd like to open it up to poetry submissions as well.
Very
Um,
cool.
we probably would only have like one or two poems per issue.
Yeah.
But I know that horror poetry is out there. Obviously, we have three books of it in our
Right.
bookshop there, in our library. So,
And people like that stuff. I mean, you
well,
should
absolutely.
maybe,
And there's some amazing dark poetry writers out there. So it'd be nice to
yeah.
showcase them as well. Um,
Yeah, I think Wrath James White is one of the authors too, who got in touch with his romantic side, with his book of poetries. What was it? If you died tomorrow, I would eat your corpse, or something romantic like
yep,
that. The title was, yeah.
yep, yep, yep. I do enjoy reading his stuff because it meshes a very romantic side with a really like
Yeah.
dark and gory, horrific. It's like he has a good way of mixing those, and which is interesting because you don't sort of expect that. Very
Yeah,
visceral. I will say that his work is very, very visceral.
it is, but it's hard to get really angry at it because I know, I mean, I've only read a few of his books, but I know in particular Succulent Prey was, I needed a hot shower and a cold shower and a warm hug after that one. Like he was just, like you said, it's so visceral, and you're reading this stuff, and like the most gruesome stuff, definitely body horror, terrible, and it's ultimately about a serial killer. But
Mm.
then at the same time, the way he humanizes and gets right into the psyche of it, you're like, I can't believe that I'm actually kind of showing a bit of empathy for this poor guy who's got these terrible urges. This poor fellow, and it's like, what the hell are you doing to me, Wrath? No, no, it's all wrong.
You're bringing up my bad side.
Exactly. And I was like, how dare you? And I was like,
Yeah.
crap. And it was so cool, like you said, with having that serial killer, it's like, it's a, they came at the bottom of every box of cereal back in the day,
Mhm.
but he obviously took a different approach. We were looking at it from his viewpoint, and and it was almost like the serial killer urges, and obviously his other terrible urges that made serial killer almost not quite as bad.
Yeah.
Um, it's like you kind of get an idea that he created it like it's a disease, and it's you feel bad for the guy. It's
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep. Definitely. Can we pause for a second? Because I have to.
Absolutely.
One person that
Perfect.
I forgot to mention when we were talking about the Dark Recess's original crew was Steve Somerville.
Yes, I was thinking about him too when you were talking about
Yeah.
Bizarro fiction. It doesn't get
Yeah.
much more bizarro than
But I
Steve.
really enjoyed his stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. there was a few, like, yeah, I go back and I think about certain writers, some that have sort of disappeared, which is kind of sad because
Yeah,
they were amazing, but they had to get on with their own lives with other things.
yeah,
But yeah, when we won the Black Quill Award in 2007 for best short horror fiction magazine, um, it was myself, CJ, and Steve. And yeah, they
yeah.
each got their awards for being editors for that and whatnot. Yeah, the
So
amount of
cool.
work that they put into it. So yeah,
Yeah, no, I do. I still follow Steve as well through the
me too.
socials, and he seems like he's doing great. He's got his
Yeah,
wine thing going on, and
yeah,
yeah, he's living the good life.
yeah. No, it just popped into my head. I'm like, wait a minute, I forgot
Yeah,
somebody.
yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, that's the amazing thing too, and that's why, stuff like, Dark Recesses Press holds such a big meaning to me as well, because it's really the grassroots, and it's, as far as I'm concerned with the whole writing thing, I mean, between, Dark Recesses Press, Insidious Reflections before that, and somewhere in there, I think just after DRP, I did some stuff as well. Greg Lamberson had a website, Fear Zone, that he was editing.
Yep.
And those three especially, I mean, that's what everything that I've ever done since is because of those three.
Right.
And I mean, Greg was an amazing experience as well. He really was a one man show, but certainly with DRP and IR, it's I feel like throwing alphabet soup at the screen here with all these acronyms.
But yeah, no, and it is. I
But
mean,
it's
in a lot of ways, it is. Like, I mean, when you start dealing with small press and indie press, a lot of
yeah,
times, like, I mean, I put a call out for readers because I knew there was no way I was going to be able to read that many submissions
yeah,
on my own, right? It's just it's difficult to even go through the maybes sometimes and just because you're reading them all and you spend like, okay, today is reading all
yeah,
day long, right?
yeah. Your
um,
eyeballs are bugged out on you, and
yeah. So, but it's still, right now we are pretty much, I've got my three readers and me, and that's it. Um, and we rebuilt the website and I took that down and just rebuilt it from the ground up. That was like a 3-day affair and some cursing. And,
yep. A little
and
cursing, a little drinking, a little
And then, it's the same with like rebuilding the shop. It's like, what? YouTube, YouTube for everything, right? Because
I know YouTube is so great.
yeah, because when you're one person show, you learn everything, right? You start learning
Yeah,
everything. You have to learn how to do this, and you have to learn how to do that, and so you end up wearing a ton of hats,
yeah,
and so it's nice when you do start getting a group that works well with you and you've got people that can handle certain things and do other things that you don't, so you're not having to do it all, that they're better at,
yeah,
right? Which is, eventually we'll get back there again, because like I say, as much as this is new, it's our resurrection issue
yeah.
of Dark Recesses. It's still not new new,
No,
right?
and a couple of quick questions too. I do have a couple more before we wrap things up, Bailey.
Mm-hmm.
The one, speaking of which, thank you for the segue, is regarding sort of what you knew back then, and I mean, you probably knew I was going to ask this question at some point, and kind of what you're doing now as far as your vision for the magazine, all the work that you put into it, ultimately on your own. And thank God for a few of your hero readers, because really they're freeing you up to do all the other lifting, the heavy lifting, I suppose, and really getting this train back on the tracks and pointing in the right direction here. What would you say are a couple of the biggest things that you did learn from DRP the way it used to be to what you're able to put into it now moving forward, thinking, okay, great, I learned this, now I'm going to take it in this direction, or I learned this, so now I'm not going to do this, and this is really going to help my sanity and the quality of the magazine.
um well, reading periods for one, that helps a lot, because then you can say cutoff is this time, so if you come in on this day, then you're getting bumped to the next reading period, and that's just the way that is.
Okay.
Being incredibly strict with our submission guidelines, in terms if you're not meeting
Yeah.
them, out the door you go. Because again, when you're getting hundreds of submissions, it requires that you have to narrow it down. So
Right.
at that point, you have to say, if you didn't care enough to read our guidelines, take some time and make sure that it's correct, then, there's another 150, 200 people in line who did.
Right.
So that really definitely helps. Um, we have more tools now. So, like, you've got Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, um, you know, so a lot more social ways to get that information out there.
Yeah.
Um, Originally, I was doing too much. I was trying to put too many different things into it, in sense of, like, we had the digital copy, which was a PDF, and then we had the CD, which, we had the
Yeah.
digital copy, and we had musicians, music at the end, and all of that stuff. That was a challenge,
Yeah.
so narrowing it down a little bit. Um, but then at the same time, I also know that I want to. It really helped me originally define what I wanted it to say. I mean, I knew what I wanted, which is,
Right.
for my own writing, I found that there was a space that was missing. My stuff wasn't dark enough or horrific enough for mainstream horror, right? Most of the magazines, it was just not dark enough for that. But it was way too dark for anything literary, right? Any of the,
Right.
your other. So we sort of stuck in the middle there. Some of it was a bit more, Slipstream came to be. It was a thing, it's become a thing. And a lot of Slipstream tends to lean towards the darker side, but it's not necessarily horror in the old school kind of, or the 70s, 80s, 90s version
Right.
of what horror is. So I was like, there's got to be a space. And I looked and I looked, and it was very limited. And I thought, you know what? If there isn't a space, let me make one. Because
Perfect.
I'm not the only person who writes like this. I know I'm not. And that's
Yeah.
basically what I wanted Dark Recesses to be. Yes, we will accept darker horror, like more horror, standard horror. But I like the stuff that twigs your brain, and it's too dark. It's too dark, too weird for, your mainstream regular fiction, but it's not dark enough or weird enough for, your mainstream horror, or your bizarro fiction. It's just sort of somewhere, it swims in those murky waters that don't really have a shore.
Yeah, which I think in a lot of ways is a lot more relatable because when you think of everyday life, even though, we're sort of still living in a bit of a horrific times here with our pandemic and a lot of uncertainties and
We adjust.
everything else, we adjust to it as well. And it's not like every now and again something new will come up and it'll be scary, but then you adjust to that where it's not just always, you're not constantly just spending your every minute of your day just running from this terrible monster and that. So
No,
it
we're
sneaks
learning
up
to
on
live
you.
with
It's
our
there.
monsters, and
Exactly.
maneuver around the monsters. And it's not like the
Yes.
monster's ever gone. We know it's there. It's living there, but
Yes.
we've found a way to coexist with it in certain manners, and it still rears its ugly head and
Yeah.
stresses us out. But we are starting to learn how to deal with that. But yeah, so it really helped me sort of define what I wanted the magazine to be, and through the issues, became easier for me to define what that meant. Um, and I don't know, I just things that I really like about Dark Recesses then, and which I intend to carry over,
Yeah.
is that that desire for that sort of murky waters. Also, our artwork has always, especially our cover artists, we've had them from all over the world. Um, and I hope that we continue to get artwork from,
Yeah.
from around the world. And same with submissions. One of the things that is in our actual guidelines in terms of with my readers,
Yeah.
like, because they're, just as our writers have guidelines, our readers have guidelines as well.
Right.
And it's things like, UK spelling as a Canadian, right?
Yes.
I know that it's a natural inclination to try and move everything to US spelling or US terminology, but that doesn't always work, right?
Right.
If somebody sends me a story and they're from the UK and they're calling it a boot or a lift or a flat, I'm not going to change that. That's important
Yeah.
because that's part of the energy of that story, right? So we're not going to change that.
Right. Torch
We're
instead of
open to
flashlight.
submissions from around the world. We do pay in US dollars, but we are open to submissions from around the world,
Yeah.
as long as it's written in English, because unfortunately it is for an English audience. Um, and if you have it translated, that's fine, but it's still the author that needs to submit it.
Yeah. And
But I don't care. I just don't care about any of it. I just care about the story. So just give me a good story, and all the rest of it, who you are, where you live, what your circumstances are, what your gender is, what your ethnicity is, what your religion is, all of that is secondary in my mind to the story, right? You give me a good story and I will publish it. And, you know, all those other parts, well, great. You're a great author. Thank you so much. You are author.
Perfect.
This is your everything to me. You are author.
Yeah. Let's
So
hear you
it's
roar.
yeah, exactly. Like so we even with this issue,
Yeah.
we do have some people that are outside your basic standard, you know, when you think author, old guy, white guy sitting there writing, you know, it,
Long
that is
beard, and he's
that
got
is
the
gone.
midnight oil and the little lantern beside him,
Yeah, exactly. So that guy doesn't exist anymore.
yeah,
And we have authors in this upcoming issue that are, you know, much more reflective of our current world. And but I'm not about to start posting out. We've got this and we've got that. We're
right.
all inclusive. It's not about that. It's like we have a great author,
Yeah. It's like,
and
well, duh, yeah, of course, is what we're doing, because, why
yeah,
not?
yeah, and so yeah, because it's not. It's just it's important to me that when you're reading it, you're just happy to read that story, and then you look at the
Yeah,
name and you go, I want to read more by this person, and
right.
like where can I find more about that? And that's what I
The
want.
words
I want
count.
it's the same with the web fiction. I want you to read the names and then read the story. If you like it, leave a comment.
Yeah,
If you want to find more, look up their name and find more. Because their name is there. Go find out what else they've got out there for you to read or is available
yeah,
for them. Because that's what I want. I want to be your bridge, right? I want to be the bridge between the reader and
yeah.
the author and helping them expand their writing experience. So
And that's such a bingo moment. I mean, I love that absolutely, where you get to find those fantastic authors that you've never even heard of before. I remember a
yeah.
couple of years ago, if I may, that this one author, I gave a shout out in Books of Horror. I said, hey, I'm looking to review some books. And which, I mean, it was a great idea and a terrible idea because, of course, I had everybody
Yeah.
throwing their stuff at me. Pick me,
Avalanche.
pick me. And
Yeah.
and it's funny because there were some of them that their presentation was just horrible. I had somebody else that gave me like some D&D fan fiction thing about they just had vampires instead of dragons or something. It was kind of weird. Well, I'm sure it was great, but it wasn't quite for me. I had somebody else where they just had it was an okay presentation, but they had so many books out there. I thought, is this just a color by numbers kind of author? I don't know if the quality
Mhm.
is kind of there. It turned out it's actually my fault. I want to go back. I'm not going to say his name, but it turned out that it was somebody that actually is pretty well known and actually does have some great books out there. But the person I ended up picking to review was somebody that I've never heard of before. This was his brand new first author. It had to do with bugs, and I don't want to say his name because then people will be, oh yeah, I remember that guy. Yeah, and you're the one that I didn't you didn't review. Um, but it was basically a book about like the subgenre, I guess, was bugs, and it was a story about these cockroaches that invaded the world that made themselves look as if they're humans. And honestly, I never would have read this book in a million years. It's just not my kind of story because I like you were saying, more of the realistic stuff. But holy crap, this guy could write, and it was a fantastic story. And I actually chased him down not too long ago. He's got a new book coming out soon, and I can't wait to read it. So it's like so great that you're doing this kind of stuff and you're not caring about the people, the names necessarily. I mean, it's nice to have the big name on the cover, I guess, to help sell some stuff. But other than that, it's great that you're being that bridge because it's so exciting as a reader when you find these guys who are you're like, holy crap, I've never heard of this guy before. And now you're looking for that person, and
Yeah,
maybe you can't pronounce their name, but who cares? Because you're gonna type it in and Google them and
yeah, exactly.
find
You're
more of
gonna
them, and
know
it's
who
so
they are soon
exciting.
enough. Exactly.
Right, and it's so exciting. And I guess to kind of wrap things up a little bit and to, I guess, tie in with that theme of adapting with your monsters, for a lot of people that put all their hard work, and most people do put their hard work into these great stories, they maybe even get an editor, to pro editor to help them out. They submit it to you, and then lo and behold, thanks, no thanks, not for us. That can be a devastating monster. What kind of advice do you have for those people? I mean, some people are like, whatever, I've got 20 other stories out there. I don't need you. The
Hmm.
people, it is devastating for them, regardless of their frame of mind when they get that rejection. What kind of advice would you give to that person that got
Uh,
rejected at the gates?
Rejection, I know, is difficult, and unfortunately, due to our limited staff, we can't provide an in-depth reason why. We just don't have the people and the resources behind to do that. So, you get a notice just saying, thank you very much. We've decided to go a different way, kind of thing. Um, Mostly, I would just say, don't be discouraged, right? Your story may be great, but maybe it needs a little extra work. So this is your opportunity to get it back and read it, tweak it. Like take a look at it and see if there's something that you need to clean up or whatever. Or take a look and read around and look at other publications that are out there that might be better suited towards the style of story that you're submitting, right? Because it's rejection is hard, but it is consistent. It's something that
Yeah,
happens a lot. And as a writer, you have to recognize that it's not a personal attack against you.
right.
It's not about you, it's about the work. And even with that, if you're vying for one spot in a magazine for like, you got a long story, a 5,000 word story, and you're vying for that one spot, you have to recognize that that story is going to be, your competition is astronomical,
Yeah,
right? And that's just the way that is. So it's be like if you were going for a job interview and you get there and you realize that you're one of 500 applicants. Like, it's not personal, right? We're going to go
right,
with what's the best fit and the least amount of work on our end to publish, um, because yeah, like that's just how that's going to work. So that's an opportunity for you. You got that story back. Take a look at it, see if it does need some reworking or if it needs some cleaning up, and put it right back out there. Just you just keep putting it back out there because just because it didn't land in our, with us, doesn't mean it's not going to land with somebody else,
right.
with another publication. That's just the way it goes. I mean, I write a lot of Flash, and I used to get rejected all the time. And then there was a place that was that took two of my stories that I loved, and they were like, yeah, and they were because they were kind of weird and but kind
Yeah.
of fun. I mean, one was called Sunday Drives, and it was literally about the road and trees eating the car. Um, and then another one was about radioactive rubber chickens. Attack of the Radioactive Rubber Chickens. Both were horror stories, both short, and yeah,
That's great.
I love them. I had so much fun writing them, but I
Yeah.
couldn't get them placed anywhere. And then I was like, this one place, both of them, they took them because it was the right fit for them,
That's great.
right? So it's about you weren't a right fit for us, but then we weren't a right fit for you either, right? You got to recognize that it does go both ways. So maybe you find a better fit for you.
So there's a takeaway that no matter how many times you get rejected, somebody out there is going to love your radioactive rubber chicken.
It's quite possible, but it does, and maybe if you're getting a lot of rejections, take a moment, take a look at
Yeah,
your story and see if maybe there's something that needs to be done to it to tweak it. If you're always getting the same responses, then maybe it's something that needs to be looked at or checked. And the other thing I will say to people is find a workshop. If you're, especially if
Yeah,
you're newer to writing, um, go find a workshop space. Like you had mentioned, zoetrope.com.
yeah,
ZOETROPE.com. If you're looking
yeah.
for a workshop place but you don't have anybody near you, by all means, go there,
It is
um,
fantastic.
because you're going to do some reading, you're going to do some editing, you're going to do some reviewing of other people's works. They're going to do some reviewing of yours. You're going to find a core group that works for you, and then
Yeah,
you're going to workshop your stories. But by doing the reading and the reviewing and then having other people who have no vested desire other than to get their own work read and to increase and improve their own skills,
yeah,
um, they're going to give you honest feedback, and some of it will be light and quick and not super helpful, and some of it will be good, but it's an excellent place to start to look for a workshopping group if if you need.
couldn't agree more.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's super helpful. I found it incredibly helpful. And like I say, you'll find that you'll end up coming together with like-minded people. It's just like any party, right? You go to a big party
exactly.
and eventually you find your group and then you're in the corner talking with them.
Yeah, and I mean, if it wasn't for that, I mean, you and I probably wouldn't be talking right now because that's
Yep.
that's where I met everybody. I mean, I can
Well, that's where I
again,
met John Mers, who is, now he's doing movies and
wow,
books and stuff like that. There's a few other people I know, like names that I'd worked with back then. Frank Hutton, who's an amazing
right,
editor.
yeah,
Um, but and there's some people outside of that that I see now with their careers going and growing and just being outstanding. And it's like going off in all these different directions. But they all
yeah,
started with workshopping.
yeah, yeah, and we still, for the most part, I mean, even though it might only be occasional, pretty much keep in touch still. I mean, it's such
Mhm.
when you get that community going and the stuff that you learn and that the
Yeah.
experiences with that you have, I mean, no matter what direction you go in, it sticks.
Yep, and it's a good, like I say, if you don't have a workshopping group in your area, it's a good way to get one or to get the support that you need to help polish up your work,
Yeah,
um, before you send it out, and it doesn't cost you anything. So,
exactly. Yeah,
because I know that money's hard.
it is, especially these days too, more than ever, and
Yeah.
yeah. So and
So I appreciate everybody who buys the magazine.
absolutely go and buy the magazine, everybody. Like seriously, it's such a great blend of everything that you talked about, the new writers, the up and coming writers, and the fact
Artists.
that you're not the new kid on the block. You've done this before, so you're essentially, using all your wisdom and expertise from the history to kind of pave the way for the future and give a great resource for up and coming writers and folks that, I mean, there's just not enough quality magazines out there. I mean, we've seen so many of them that have come and gone,
Well,
and
and that the thing about
you've come
coming
back.
and going is really, truly, honestly, it's about everybody wants to submit, everybody wants to get paid,
Right,
but that does require readership and that does require people to take a chance and buy a
yeah,
magazine. And if you like it, you buy another one and grow with us,
yeah,
and all of those kinds of things. And as our readership grows, then that will also, could translate into a reduction in prices, because if I can
right,
order larger amounts, if I can order larger print runs and things like that, and then I'm able to reduce the costs required to produce it, and that means that translates into lower costs for the consumer, right?
definitely. Especially now there's such a huge timber shortage and of course paper shortage and pulp and all
Yeah,
the
paper
rest of it
prices
too.
have
It's
definitely gone up. Yeah, I know. My
yeah,
printers keep sending me messages every month, and it's like, oh my God,
stop
stop.
it. Exactly. So, yeah, no, and I think that's a really important takeaway as well for everybody listening to this and watching is that it's really important to keep in mind. I mean, we all have, I'm sure a lot of us have Patreon um, creators that we love to support, and that's a lot of it too. Is that when you buy a magazine like this, especially an independent magazine that does everything that you can to pay the people that are in the magazine, even when you're not getting paid yourself, they're not just buying a great product, they're also paying to help support those every author that's in there, as well as
Yeah.
yourself, and as well as the continuation of this great home and resource for writers and authors.
Yeah,
I think
originally,
that's important.
suggestion of people that I'd worked with before was to, do a Kickstarter and, get your, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. For me, I'm
Yeah,
not, it's, for me, I want it to be its own, I want people to buy it.
yeah,
And, no, I don't want it to be a gimmick and I don't want them to feel like they have to donate to it. I want it to speak for itself and I want people to know that, what their money, what they pay is going 100% back towards our authors and artists and, our contributors on the website as well.
yeah,
I want people to know that that money is like literally going in and right back out the door to these people, because we wouldn't have a magazine obviously without them,
yeah. And I think
right?
that's so important. So much integrity involved with that because so many times you hear about people that, major publishers that ended up, won't name names. I think we could probably think of a few of them that screw their authors because they're not sustainable. They're in it for the profit. And even if their publication isn't making money, they're still taking profit. So it's actually taken away. And then it just ends up crashing and burning and leaves a really ugly stain on everybody involved in the whole genre as a whole. And
it,
the
it
fact
is
you're taking
hard.
the opposite
Yeah.
approach is
Yeah.
commendable.
Well, yeah, and I'm hoping too that with the magazine, it will actually start shining some light on our library as well, so we can actually start getting some of our authors that have been sitting there quietly, patiently,
Yes.
get them some sales so that we can get some money back to them as well. Because yeah, unfortunate, especially with the pandemic, everything went super quiet,
Yeah.
on our front as well. It was, everything was very difficult, and so you got a year and a half of no anything,
Yeah,
right?
I've been hearing that a lot too. Yeah, a lot of folks are just struggling.
Yeah, so I almost feel like we're, those old cars with the crank in the front. Busy just
Yeah,
cranking that wheel right now to get her started again.
yeah,
But yeah, and for future submitters, I will suggest, because and just like all magazines will suggest, buy a copy so you
yes,
know what it is you're submitting to and what to expect. Um, right now I understand that there isn't a copy for them to buy. That's fine. There's pre-orders and they can save money right now if they
yeah,
pre-order because we do have a coupon code for that.
cool.
Save a buck off. But definitely going forward, buy a copy just because that way you can see what it is. I'm not saying you need to buy a subscription,
Yeah,
and you don't have to buy a print copy. You can buy a digital copy just so you can see what it is that you're submitting to and what, generally the idea of what it is we're looking for so that it helps you and it helps us, right? So,
yeah, and I love the fact that you've taken the time to have this conversation with me, Bailey, because by the time this airs, I believe the magazine will be out, so people can literally hit pause. They can go and they can order it themselves. So then they can watch the rest of this conversation with pride, knowing that they did their best to support the all the creators that were involved in that, including yourself, the future of the magazine. Get a lesson in how to submit what it is you're looking for, and it's just I feel like a used car salesman who's giving
I feel like
away
that every
oven
day.
mitts or
So.
something. But I know, right? But really, there's so many benefits in it. I mean, just go and buy a copy of the magazine.
Yeah. Right now, also just to let everybody know, our Webzine fiction Sundays and Wednesdays, every Sunday and Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern, a fresh piece of new free fiction is available. So,
Perfect.
if you just want to get your read on and just sort of see what we're about, it's easy enough to pop by and the previous issues or previous stories are available also for reading. So,
Oh, that's great. Okay, fantastic. So, all right. Well, thank you very, very much, Billy. I really appreciate that. I mean, this is so exciting to get to talk to great people like you, and I'm so excited. As soon as I found out about Dark Recesses Press coming back, I'm like, all right, we're gonna have to chat about that because I'm stoked.
I'm
So,
super excited too, and yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes from here. I know it's only I know that I'll be dedicated to it. So
Absolutely. I was gonna say I was gonna wish you good luck, but I know you don't need any luck from me. I mean, you work too hard for luck to even be a factor.
I'll take
So,
luck too. I'm good
all
with
right.
yeah. Give me your luck, your vibes, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Perfect. So, good luck, good
All right.
vibes. Thank you very much, Bailey, and
Thank you, and you have a good rest of your day.
I will. You as well. And I look forward to doing this again once we get some more stuff out there as well, so we'll be able to talk about all that too.
Perfect.
Okay. Thanks so much
All
again,
right.
Bailey.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.